Hey everyone, and welcome to another GameXplain discussion. I'm your host, Derek Bittner, and I'm joined today by John Cartwright and Shesez to give our thoughts on the news that all 5 DLC characters have been chosen for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. So we wanted to come together and give our top 5 picks for those DLC slots. But before we get into that, I did want to take some time to talk about the way this was announced and basically talk about the fact that Sakurai immediately came out and said, okay, all these characters are picked. You don't have to do any speculation, keep it to a minimum, they're all set in stone. And to me, that is super interesting. It's like, okay, I do not want any discussion, I don't want to be bothered by this, they're picked. Shut up. How'd you feel about that reveal, Shesez?
Well, first of all, I thought that was great. Although I also noticed, too, that he only wrote that message in English. I wonder what that says about his fan base over in the West, but, you know.
Yeah, I think we might be a little entitled.
Yeah, I'm kind of all for this. It's like they've made their decision, and to me it kind of says that these choices probably aren't going to be the crazy picks that people are expecting them to be. Because they're also not being selected by Sakurai. It sounds like Nintendo are selecting these choices. So I kind of take that to be that these are probably going to be really relevant characters, and maybe characters that are coming up in future Switch titles. So it might mean that we're not going to have, like Gino or whoever else, but I don't know, it could still be that, because Nintendo do somewhat listen to their fan bases, so yeah, who really knows what this means for the characters. But I do love how he messaged this, though.
Yeah, just put it out there right away. It's like, no need for speculation. We have it picked. Just wait for it. And you know what? I'm cool with that. I am totally cool with the idea of, like, it's all set in stone now. There's no need to just go even beyond this. Now we just get to sit back and wait for the DLC characters to come to us. And it's going to be a bit of a long wait, because he said it's not even going to be all finished, even in 2019, I believe he said, because, they haven't even started work on them. So it is interesting that Nintendo is the one that dictated who these characters were going to be. Basically, as far as I can tell, Nintendo said, we want to have this character in, and then he looked at it, see if it was a viable option, and it's like, okay, yes, I can do that, and that's how they went forward with this. So we might be seeing some very different selections than what's normal, because who knows who Nintendo wants. And that's sort of what I based my 5 picks on, is like, okay, who would Nintendo court looking at all this? Some of them are still a little hopeful on my part, but I took a little more of an aspect of that.
Right, and we were saying before this that Smash 4's selection were primarily third-party characters like Ryu and Bayonetta and Cloud. And with Nintendo choosing them, that's probably a bit more unlikely this time.
Yeah, I'm just hoping that they're not, like, too sterile of choices, because, one, you have Nintendo as I don't know exactly who's going to be picking them, but it seems that it's like going to be like a group decision within Nintendo, and then it has to go through a double filter with Sakurai. So, yeah, it could be that, like, Nintendo gets to pick the characters, but then who knows if it's, like, too out there for Sakurai to even consider making it a viable character.
I'm pretty sure Sakurai can take any character and make it viable at this point, looking at Piranha Plant, which I know you have opinions on, she says, but...
Thankfully, that's not the discussion we're having. But no, if anything, I will give credit that, Piranha Plant does... It really should be an indication that any character can be in this game.
Yeah, a lot of people are using Piranha Plant as a way to get Bandana D in, because basically we did a video where... we were arguing whether Bandana D was an actual viable character for Smash, and our verdict was pretty much no. But that kind of opened the floodgates a little bit, because now I'm kind of thinking, hey, now Piranha Plant's in, Bandana D, or just any Waddle D, probably could be playable in Smash.
It's going to be Gordo.
Absolutely Gordo. It just makes sense.
Bandana Gordo. I don't know.
Perfect. It's an interesting setup, very different from last time. There's no ballot. There's no hope for, like, oh, maybe this character can get in, or they have all that. I think Nintendo is really going to be taking a look at sales numbers, what's been doing well, and sort of building off of that. It could be some interesting choices.
I really hope that we're all wrong about this, because if there is one thing to look back on, it's that Nintendo, even as just a company, doesn't really like to settle for what people expect. So even though it's not Sakurai himself doing the Madman choices, I'm hoping that the Madman creator umbrella that is Nintendo can still come up with something really creative.
Exactly. And I think what I'm actually really interested in as we give our choices is whether we pick more third-party characters or we think Nintendo's going to go more in-house this time around. I'm not quite sure how it's going to go, but I have a feeling how I think it's going to go, but well, I'm curious if you guys agree with me or not. But unless you guys have anything else to say about Sakurai's announcement for this and how the DLC is being handled, why not jump right into our top 5?
Cool, let's do it.
I guess I'll start things off with my number 5 pick about who could get in. So for number 5, I think we're going to get an ARMS character. Yes, we got Springman as an assist trophy, but I never really wanted Springman himself as a character because I think he's just a boring choice. I think it's much more likely that we will get Twintel or Ribbon Girl as our new DLC fighter from ARMS. Because here's the thing, ARMS sold incredibly well. For an original title, I believe it's like hovering around 1.5 million sales, maybe more. And that's incredible for a new title that is pretty good. I mean, I was really interested in it before, but I never actually got the chance to play it. But the character designs for these guys are fantastic. And Ribbon Girl's kind of like the poster child along with Springman, so I can see that. But I know Twintel is also like a heavy favorite for that game, so I think either of those could be really viable. But I do expect to see an ARMS character in here for DLC.
I had the exact same thing written down on my list, Twintel or Ribbon Girl.
Oh boy, all right, already meshing together.
Right.
And I agree with you guys. I think that's really possible. I'm really surprised that Springman wasn't selected. I know that in his own universe, he's kind of the most boring, most vanilla character in there. But then when you take him out of it and put him in something like Smash Brothers, he becomes a lot more interesting. And he's still kind of like the flagship character. But I suppose if there is a second flagship character, it would be Ribbon Girl.
Right, and Ribbon Girl has multiple jumps too, which can make her quite interesting as a Smash character. But the only thing really going against Ribbon Girl is she does have a Mii costume. But I don't really think Mii costumes mean anything, because Link had a Mii costume in Smash Bros. Wii U and 3DS, as did Captain Falcon. Chrom's Mii costume has been seen in Ultimate, so yeah, I don't think that means anything for being playable.
Yeah, if anything, it almost solidifies them at this point. Right. With K. Rool.
Exactly, yeah.
In some ways, yeah. I was thinking about the fact that Ribbon Girl does have a triple jump, which would make her feel different, but my other worry with them being viable is, as we saw with Springman's ability as an assist trophy, he has an even longer reach than Simon and Richter. So I wonder if having one of those characters in the game would almost negate it, because this character's all about his reach, and all of a sudden here comes another character that has even greater reach. So, sorry, Simon.
Yeah, I guess the assist trophy for Springman kind of does everything Springman can do. Because all he can really do is left and right jab, a grab, and he does... Oh,
I don't know what it is, but that, like, where he unleashes just all the attacks, yeah.
Right, yeah, so that's pretty much all he can do, and the assist trophy already does that. So maybe this is a case where the assist trophy is fine for the character. I mean, I'm all for having an ARMS character playable. I mean, obviously I had it on my list too, but yeah, when I come to think about it, maybe assist trophy is a bit more fitting for these guys.
I think the best way to give it variety would be if they were able to change out, like, each direction or special had different boxing gloves.
Oh, you know what? What if they had like a heal? Or what's the head that attaches them to them called?
Headlock?
Yeah. So what if they had like a headlock that attaches onto them for one of their specials or something? Because maybe you can't just use their raw moveset and put it into Smash, but you could always have things like the volleyball bomb or things like that to make them a little bit more interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like Sakurai could find a way to make these a little bit more viable, but you're right. On its own, just looking at their base moveset, there isn't a whole lot of moves that they could put in there, but I'd like to see what he could do.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if Captain Falcon's an indication, you can come up with something in its place.
Mm-hmm. What about your number 5, Shesez?
My number 5 is Pig Wizard Ganon from the original Legend of Zelda series.
Oh, that's a good pick.
I just think, he's got the trident. He's also got teleportation. There's like a lot of things you can add to the character's moveset, on top of just being a really classic character, very iconic.
Would his final smash be Well, I suppose we already have Ocarina of Time's Ganondorf as normal Ganondorf's Final Smash, so I guess you could have like Calamity Ganon or something for that character, because they're vaguely similar, not quite the same, but they're more similar than Ganondorf at least.
Yeah, it's funny because I was kind of creatively bankrupt there, and I was like, oh, maybe he could just transform into the Ryuga version, you know? Yeah, something like that, where he just gets beefed up even more. But I like what you had there, for sure.
It'd be really interesting too, because Ganondorf is a really rich character, and there's a lot you can choose from, and his Smash version is still pretty much Captain Falcon. I mean, they've given him a sword now, but he still pretty much has Captain Falcon's moves, so doing this could be a way to really, give Ganondorf the recognition he deserves.
And I just like the idea of having Pig Wizard Ganon in there, because that is sort of the classic idea behind it, and I don't know, having him be able to shift around or have like maybe one of his moves allows him to go invisible like he does. And just the sheer fact that he has a trident, which is a weapon we do not have in Smash. I think there's ways that could just be made a lot of fun, and I'd love to see the redesign he'd get for this, like how they keep it classic.
Same. I love that blue aesthetic. I gotta have it back in my life.
Yeah.
What about you, John?
Alright, so we've already crossed off Twintel and Ribbon Girl from my list, so I'll go on to the next one, which is Rex and Pyra. So we talked about earlier how Mii costumes may not actually stop you from being a fighter, because there was a segment in the Direct which was pretty much catered entirely towards Xenoblade 2, where Sakurai would say things like, because these characters came along in the midst of development when we've already solidified our roster, we couldn't add them into the fighting roster. Which made me think that Sakurai did actually want them playable, but he just couldn't because of time constraints. And we know he's gone on record saying that he likes Xenoblade 2, so I think they're very likely characters just from Sakurai's standpoint. But also from Nintendo's standpoint, Xenoblade 2 is the best-selling game in the series, and they really want to push that franchise, it seems. So I think these guys seem like really likely candidates from Nintendo. And they also would play extremely differently to Shulk. I'm sort of picturing Pyra in the background, kind of similar to Pokemon Trainer, just supporting Shulk. And maybe she can even morph into Mythra and perform entirely different moves. Or maybe Mythra could be an echo of her. I don't know entirely how they'd handle that, but they could really just give Rex double the moves if they're switching between Pyra and Mythra at the same time. So yeah, I think these guys are pretty likely, as they're recent characters. Sakurai seems fond of them, and I got the impression that he did want them in from his little talk in the Direct portion.
Do we just have the same list? Because
probably one for one, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because everything you just said, I completely agree with. Sakurai had a suspicious amount of time spent on the Xenoblade Chronicles 2 content. Again, that being a Mii costume does not make me think that they're not going to have Rex and Pyra in. It is absolutely going to happen. It just makes sense because, as you said, it sold well too. So Nintendo wants to capitalize on that, get people interested. And I mean, we just had a whole year of Xenoblade DLC. The series is still very much relevant. And I'd love to see it. Especially, I love your idea for being able to potentially switch between Pyra and Mythra. I can almost see that being a downbeat in order to change up the moveset. So even though you don't have a downbeat, you do have basically 6 moves that you can use and switch between.
Right.
And then of course the Final Smash is, we know what it would be if you played Xenoblade 2.
It just makes sense.
Not to be your echo fighter in this discussion, John, but I do agree with you quite a bit on the fact that Nintendo really does like to push certain franchises lately, and I think that Xenoblade definitely falls into that category along with ARMS and Splatoon. And so just with that alone, if Nintendo themselves have that much influence over the last 5, I think those 2 characters are very likely.
I was thinking if there were any other possible Xenoblade 2 characters they could put in, but there's no one else that really comes to mind. I mean, they could have Laura and Jin, but they're nowhere near as famous as Rex and Pyra. Mm-hmm. Some people have also pointed out that Pyra is a spirit, but there's also a lot of other playable characters who are spirits. There's a King K. Rool spirit, there's the Wii Fit Trainer's Tree Pose is a spirit for some reason, so I don't think that really means anything.
Yeah, exactly. Spirits mean nothing. Spirits do not discount anything, so Yeah.
Yeah, that never even crossed my mind.
Yeah, as far as other Xenoblade 2 characters, like maybe Nia, but I don't think... Like, Nia's popular, but I don't think Dromark is recognizable enough. I think it's definitely going to be Rex and Pyra.
If I'm more confident about any character on this list, I'd say that those are the two that I'm most confident in making in.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. All right, she says, what about yours?
Well, since we've been talking a lot about side characters in games as possible, DLC fighters, I might as well go with one of mine, and that's Slippy Toad from Star Fox.
I love this already.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I think that he could have the highest jump, because I'm pretty sure that's... No, what did he have as his trait in the 64 version when you unlocked all the characters on the ground?
Oh,
Was it speed? No, Peppy had speed. I think Falco had jump. What did Slippy have? Anything?
I don't remember.
Slippy was just there.
Yeah. I know that there's not going to be any Echo Fighters, so maybe he'll kind of be, once again, one of those more hybrid kind of characters. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking that instead of a pistol, he can have wrench throwing.
I like it.
And he can also, for his special moves, he can have the guard bots from Star Fox Guard.
Ooh.
I love that idea. Would his Uncle Grippy Toad make an appearance?
I hope so. As a final smash. As the final smash, he comes in, he pushes the button, and then the Star Fox team comes in to wipe them all out.
Yeah, I think there's a way to make Slippy viable. It definitely feels like you should change up his moves at least somewhat, because he definitely can't be as fast as Fox and Falco. There's no way that's going to happen. But I don't even know if I'd like increase his power as well, like they kind of do with Wolf. So I almost wonder if they're going to make him more of a trickster character, where all of his different tools is how he differentiates himself and handles himself in a fight, which could be interesting, just for a different kind of Star Fox character.
You know, it'd be a weird trait to have, and I wonder if it could possibly work. Is if, you know how Ryu is supposed to always face the opponent on 1v1 matches?
Uh-huh.
What if, for Slippy, every time he moves in the direction away from the opponent, he goes faster?
That sounds so good.
I like that.
Yeah.
That is so good.
Yeah, you know, the more you say, she says, the more I'm into Slippy Toad being a playable character.
Nice.
Yeah, it's one of those things
Keep
you hear is
Slippy.
like, there's a joke, but you think about it, there's ways they can make them fun. Well, I guess I'll go with my next one, and I'm kind of quickly running out because I'm kind of going two at a time with John here. So I'm going to be the first one to put out a third-party character. And I think it's going to be Tails, with Shadow off the list as an assist trophy, because I do think that negates him. I think with him being there as an assist trophy, he's not going to be able to be a actual playable character. It'd just be a little weird. Now, granted, some people might point to the fact that Robin still has Chrom show up as part of his final smash, which is weird in and of itself. But I think it's a little different for assist trophies. Like, we have Little Mac, we're not seeing the Little Mac assist trophy still run around and all that stuff. That's why I just don't see Shadow or even Isaac making it in as DLC at this point, as cool as it would be to have them. But Tails is still there, and Tails is almost the most, yeah, Shadow's super popular, but Tails is the recognizable one. The one fans
I thought you were going
like.
to say he's like the Slippy Toad of the Sonic universe.
I mean, he is kind of tech-based like Slippy Toad. Like, there's ways they could like have little tricks and stuff like that. I mean, he has a built-in recovery. The limitation's already there. Like, it'd be really cute to see them interpret his like tired look whenever, like from Sonic 3, when he gets worn out from flying too much.
Yes.
I think there's ways that you could really change him up and make him different. And, you know, having Sonic and Tails there, it's just like that EGM April Fool's joke from years ago in Melee. Let's do it.
Yeah. First of all, I want to say I do not have Tails on my list,
Yay!
so we do have at least one different character. And I agree with you on the assist trophy point. I think if a character was made into an assist trophy, then Sakurai likely decided that they were not fit to be characters. And it would be weird to, you know, take Shadow out of being an assist trophy and make him into a character. I think we're past that point now, and unfortunately hope is gone for assist trophy characters. But yeah, I'm all with you for Tails. Tails sounds like, I mean, he's basically Sonic's number 2. And while Shadow would have made like a sensible Echo for Sonic, you know, we're not doing Echo characters with DLC. Mm-hmm. These are all original ones. Tails has so much potential. It feels like recently Sega have taken him out of the playable role and made him more of a support character. But, in his heydays, Tails had so many different moves he could do. Like, in Sonic Adventure alone, he has that tail spin. He can also, obviously, he can fly. He just seems like a character that has a lot more going for him than maybe Sega have given him credit for recently. So yeah, I'm all for having Tails in this roster.
Yeah, honestly, the thought had never crossed my mind, Derek, but when you put some thought into it, he would be really fun. There's a lot of characters that kind of have that trait of, spinning attacks, like Pit with his side B from Super Smash Bros. Brawl. And if there was like a variety of moves that Tails could use his tails for that involved attacking, I think that would be like a really fun, different character to have. I mean, the only thing that would be like a clear copy would be Tails and King K. Rool's up B. Probably that would be exactly the same, but...
The big difference I can see is that in the classic games, Tails' tails could be used to damage opponents during flight. If you come up from under them, like the aerial boss fight in the one, I forget the stage it happens on, but in Sonic 3 there is a fight where you can play as Tails, and if you ram up into Eggman, I think you can damage him. I think I'm remembering that correctly.
I think so too, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe...
I did not know that.
So maybe
I'm picturing Tails as like an Isabelle kind of character, where she has some of Sonic's moves, but a lot of them are very like repurposed and different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, we'll see. But I think he has some of the best shots of being a third-party character.
I think there's one that's a little more likely, but we'll get to that.
Okay, I had a feeling that would show up on the list, but that's until we get to that. Now we're not actually copying each other, John. What's your next pick?
So I kind of dismissed this one earlier during my original claim that Nintendo would be selecting the characters now, but my next pick is Gino. We have seen Gino as a spirit, and Gino was also a Mii costume in Smash for Wii U and 3DS, which makes me think that rights aren't the issue of Gino. I think it's just been an issue of timing, perhaps. And Square have not exactly been cooperative. We've had all but 2 Final Fantasy tracks in Ultimate so far. So it's clear that Nintendo can use Gino. They just haven't been for some reason, and it doesn't seem like Square are the ones getting in the way of that. So I kind of think this is the time for Gino. He's one of the most highly requested characters. Nintendo can still use him, and they've been using him a bit in the past. So I think it really is his time. And it might be tricky to get other fan favorites like Banjo, because there's the whole Microsoft situation going on there. But yeah, I think Gino is just a much simpler get. But then there's also the question of whether he is relevant, because his only real game is Mario RPG, and that game never released in Europe, so it's really just an America and Japan thing. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure on whether he can make it in, but I do want him in.
I've also heard that Gino is not exactly the most popular in Japan. I think he's entirely bolstered by his American fan base, his North American fan base. And, you can't take away from that, but it's for that reason I also don't think Gino's going to make it. I don't think Gino has a chance. Like, it'd be cool. I think there's a lot they could do with him, but just looking at it, I think they're just fine to just have small references to him, and Gino not actually make it in because, look at a modern fan like, who the heck's Gino? Now, granted, they could do the same for, Mr. Game & Watch or Duck Hunt, but there's legacy there. And Super Mario RPG does have a legacy, but that legacy's also been kind of supplanted by Paper Mario and Mario and Luigi. Those games are a lot more common, a lot more relevant, and there's obviously still a fondness for the original. The original is still a fantastic game. I do not want to take that away from anybody, but I just don't think... I think Gino is just an easy one to just like, here's some cool references to him, we still remember the character, but we're not going to make him playable.
So here's a couple of things on my end. I do think that he's more than just a character. He represents a partnership between Nintendo and Square, and I think that's what he is to a lot of people. Me personally, he's not my favorite character from the game, but he definitely is a great ambassador of that franchise, or rather that single standalone title. And I also got to say, I didn't know this until you just mentioned it, but what a perfect fit to have him as a spirit. Because what is he in the end? He truly is one.
Right.
I don't think that he's going to be a character, not because of relevancy or anything like that. I do think that there's a lot of good reasons to put him in, especially when you also consider the fact that Sakurai said, I think he said at one point that he wanted him to be in the game. But unfortunately, the thing that doesn't allow me to believe it is the fact that Nintendo's more in charge of what characters we're going to be picking out this time. Yeah. If it was entirely up to Sakurai, then I'd still have hope. I'd still hold out. But now that it's like Nintendo's the one that's trying to pick out these last 5, I just don't see it.
My only counter argument there is maybe Nintendo, when they're selecting their characters, maybe they are looking at fan demands, and Gino is pretty high up there. But yeah, at the same time, they're probably looking closer at their current portfolio of characters and like who can we bolster to be, in like the public mind. And Gino is probably not in their top tips in that regard.
No, yeah, I don't think so. And I think they'd go with a different Square Enix character, but that character's not even on my list, but it might be on Shesez's, which is why I'll save that for later. But
well, there's no Square Enix character on my list, so
know we've both talked about this isn't on my list or anything like that. But if we're gonna get a Square character, I have to imagine it has to be from Dragon Quest, right?
That's what I was thinking too. Yeah, I thought it would be. It was on my my pinned Twitter account for over a year. It was Erdrick from Dragon Quest III. I was almost certain of it, only because of how insanely popular it is in Japan, and how, at least in the past, Sakurai has really looked out for his Japanese audience as well. So having one of the most popular Square characters from Japan represented in Smash Brothers just seems like a no-brainer to me.
Yeah, and I think it goes out of Japan too, because Nintendo are always publishing Dragon Quest games in America and Europe. Like Dragon Quest Builders, I believe Nintendo published.
7 and 8 on 3DS.
Yeah, 7 and 8 on 3DS. I remember during Dragon Quest 9's marketing, they had a bunch of British celebrities do the marketing for it, so they were really pushing it hard to be like a global franchise.
Yeah, even Nintendo are fans.
Exactly. It's shown in the past that Nintendo, they sometimes do use Smash as a marketing tool. Would Fire Emblem be where it is if it weren't for Marth and Roy and Melee? I don't really think so.
Absolutely.
So, it might be in Square's interest and Nintendo's interest to try and bolster the Dragon Quest franchise in the West by including it in Smash.
As far as the character, I know you said Erdrick, she says, but I almost want to say Slime. I think Slime has the best chance because you could just transform into different kinds of slimes.
I mean, we've got piranha plants.
I know. I would have argued that it was just a generic enemy, like a Goomba. But then John just chimed in exactly with what I can't argue that anymore.
You could hold down B and it'll turn into a metal slime and take less damage.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. There's so many slime variations out there. There's ways they can make this work.
Yeah, Final Smash should be King Slime. Yep.
Yeah, it'd be amazing. And if they want an actual character, I'm sure they'd probably pull from 8, just because that has a little bit more international appeal. But I'm not sure on that one. That's why I didn't pick a character from Dragon Quest, because I don't know. But I do think if we're going to get a Square rep, it has to be from Dragon Quest.
I was going to say that I picked Erdrick because he's mentioned in Legend in the first 2 games, and then he is in the 3rd game, and that was a fan favorite in Japan, I believe. So, not only is he mentioned in 3 different games, but he also is part of pretty much the most popular entry in the franchise, at least over in Japan. I understand that 8 has global appeal, though, so you got a good point there.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Well, what's your actual next pick?
All right, so my third-party pick, I'm really surprised that we haven't gotten to this yet, is Banjo and Kazooie.
Oh, I expected to get there at some point.
Yeah, I get why he hasn't shown up yet, and I think it has largely to do with that divide between Nintendo and Microsoft now. I think that would be the biggest argument against not having him in the game, him and her rather. But again, there's been signs that Nintendo is willing to work with Microsoft in the prospect of just giving the fans what they want. We saw that in Minecraft for Nintendo Switch with the Mario. Oh, I'm sorry, Wii U with the Mario package. So Mario blended in with a Microsoft-owned IP.
True, and there's also crossplay in Minecraft between Xbox One and Switch. And you can play as Banjo-Kazooie in the Switch version of Minecraft. So, you're kind of already there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And then the moveset potential is just, come on, it's so obvious.
Yeah.
Right?
That's the thing.
It really is.
They would work perfectly as characters. There is no denying that. And, I do think they have a decent chance, especially if certain things align. So, we haven't heard anything about a Nintendo 64 Classic yet, but let's say that system does come out there. Rare was a huge part of the Nintendo 64. They had so many great games. At the very least, you'd want Banjo-Kazooie and Diddy Kong Racing in there. So you'd have to imagine that because of that system, Nintendo might be in talks with Microsoft in order to be able to get some of those games in a Nintendo 64 Classic, because the system would just feel lacking without those titles. And, it might even just be able to, like, hey, while we're at this, let's have Banjo-Kazooie in there. Maybe make this an even bigger event by having Microsoft announce that a new Banjo-Kazooie game is coming out at E3 this coming year, or something like that, and just have a whole Banjo blowout between the N64 Classic, the new game, and a Smash character. Like, there's ways that this could mesh together in some way, or none of that can happen. We could just get Banjo on his own because Microsoft's like, yeah, sure, we'll let you use the character. They'll give us brand recognition if we ever do a game or something like that. But I do think Microsoft is willing enough to work with Nintendo on this that it might happen.
On the flip side, what if Microsoft gave them a different character?
Oh no.
Because I suppose the other two candidates for Microsoft are Master Chief, which is unlikely, or Minecraft Steve. Because Minecraft is one of the biggest franchises in the world.
Yeah.
It's one of the best-selling games ever. And technically, Banjo could still be in Smash if he was a skin for Steve. But I kind of feel like Minecraft might actually be a more likely rep than Banjo-Kazooie, just because everyone knows Minecraft. Whereas the only people who know Banjo are really the people who grew up with Banjo. So I suppose if you're like a 6-year-old or a 7-year-old and you're playing Smash Ultimate, you'll know who Steve is. But you'll be like, who the hell is this bird?
Yeah.
Or this bear.
I definitely see that side of the argument. I would counter argue that with saying that, a lot of what the third-party picks have been in the past have been franchises that became notorious through a Nintendo platform. Minus, of course, Bayonetta and Cloud, of course, but those ones are like legendary Well, Cloud. Cloud is a legendary character.
Oh, poor Bayonetta.
She's a great character. I've always found that to be a strange choice, though. But, you look at Simon Belmont, Mega Man, Ryu, sort of, more of an arcade kind of classic character, but certainly had a large presence on the Super Nintendo. A lot of those characters were kind of picked. I mean, like, let's look at Simon Belmont. He's not exactly relevant anymore, but he is a classic character that really got his start on the Nintendo Entertainment System. That's where I kind of draw from with Banjo and Kazooie. Granted, they're now owned by Microsoft, but they certainly have had no presence that was notable on a Microsoft platform, whereas on the N64, they were legends.
Are you saying Nuts and Bolts is not a legendary game?
No comment.
There you go. Yeah. That one's so tough because here's the thing, like, okay, we got our Minecraft representation with Steve, but does anybody really know who Steve is? You'll be able to look at the character and be able to like, oh yeah, that's Minecraft. But you won't know Steve because, as far as I can tell with Minecraft, everybody just reskins Steve anyway. Nobody actually plays as base Steve.
And I'll argue for Steve, but I don't care about Steve. Like,
yeah.
He's just such a boring character to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he could literally be a plank of wood and he'd have more personality.
He almost is.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep, essentially.
The potential for Banjo as a character itself, like the moveset, oh, so good. So many ways.
I mean, I could go for the whole... That's the one character I could go for the whole thing, but one that I always think of immediately is... I think it's called the Beak Bash. I'm going to get ripped apart in the comments, I'm sure. But the one where Kazooie just kind of jettisons outward with the beak, and you have to be in a crouched position in order to use that move. Mm-hmm. That's obviously a down A move for Banjo and Kazooie right there. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then it just goes on and on.
Yeah.
Shooting eggs and... Oh, man. All right, well, I guess it's back to me. And, well, speaking of characters associated with Rare... I think Dixie can make it in.
Yes.
I think Dixie has a good chance. Tropical Freeze is selling really well. And honestly, the reason I'm picking Dixie, like, I really want Dixie in as a character. It just completes the trifecta of Donkey Kong characters, or I guess at this point the quad of Donkey Kong characters, since we got K. Rool in there. But as far as the Kongs themselves, she makes a lot of sense. She's super popular. She's, you know, part of one of the best games in the franchise and whatnot. It's just an obvious pick, and since she's not being Echo, it's not going to be not having that trouble of like, well, how do we squish her into Diddy's moveset? We don't have to worry about that anymore. She can be her own character. But the big reason I'm picking her is I want a freaking Tropical Freeze level in Smash, and since each of these characters come with a stage, I want a Tropical Freeze stage, and so damn it, I'm picking Dixie.
Would Kiddy Kong be in her final Smash?
God, I hope not.
Thank you. If you said yes, I'm like, I don't want her. But yeah, I can picture Dixie so well, and like her guitar could be used for a lot of her moves too. Like maybe her final Smash, but maybe just like as a general move as well. And I'm totally with you with the Diddy Kong thing, because she would not really work as a Diddy Echo. She doesn't have the jetpack. I mean, that wouldn't even translate well. Even if you change her hair for the jetpack, it's still totally different. So yeah, as a brand new character, Dixie makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, she's like one of those no-brainer characters that almost everybody and their mother have asked at this point, like, why hasn't Dixie shown up yet? I think more people at a certain point wanted Dixie over King K. Rool. I was not one of those people, but I can understand why. Like you said, Derek, it's like the fan favorite in the original series was 2. So, you know, there's a lot of moveset potential. There's a lot of notoriety in the character itself. She remains relevant through future sequels. I don't see any reason why she shouldn't be. And, of course, we need to have her victory song and victory pose be her playing the guitar with that little tune.
Obviously. And you know how Sakurai always likes to craft those funny little images. They could, with Dixie in there, they could totally recreate Diddy and Dixie facing off against Pirate K. Rool, or Captain K. Rool, and have like one of those barrels be around with Donkey Kong inside as him being captured. Like, you could totally recreate that. Do it! I think Dixie has a lot of potential, but man, do I want that Tropical Freeze stage, because Donkey Kong needs a good stage. Especially
since we've gotten rid of the Donkey Kong Country Return stage of all things, so we need something to represent modern DK.
Yeah, and I'm with you right there, just so we can get more Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze music.
Oh, yeah.
There's
that
like so many great
happen.
Tracks. Yeah, David Wise did a really good job there.
Put the entire album in. Like, just put every single song from that game, put it in here.
I'm okay with this. So what about your next pick, John?
So I was trying to write this list without including L Block, but I couldn't do it. So L Block is in my list. We've pretty much had L Block in all of our discussions, I think, for the entire year. So by L Block, I do mean Tetramino from Tetris. And L Block is basically from one of the best-selling games ever, if not the best-selling game ever. And recently with Tetris Effect, I have been on a Tetris high. I've been playing Puyo Puyo Tetris even more, and L Block is just on my mind constantly. And I think, because Sakurai has literally just given a Piranha Plant a moveset, I think he could totally give something to a Tetramino, whether it's just a walking L Block, or whether it's a block that shifts into other blocks. I think there's a lot you can do here. I know a lot of people are thinking, like, these are just blocks that fall from the sky. How on earth can that be a fighter? And I don't know. I'm sure they could do something.
I just want it.
Oh, gentlemen, I'm glad I'm here, because finally we have a third party coming into the fray to let you know that the GameXplain bubble of this Tetra block from Tetris is insane. You guys are crazy.
No, I in this case, now that Sakurai is out of the picture, I completely agree. She says, I do not see Nintendo picking this themselves. I'm sorry, John, there's no way it's going to happen.
Well, Nintendo do have a long history of Tetris, and
they do.
Maybe their lawsuits and everything could be part of the moveset, because there's a very long legal case going on with the rights of Tetris, and maybe they could even implement that somehow.
Yeah,
Final Smash can be like all the Tetris blocks form into a legal contract, a cease and desist.
I mean, you want a way around it. If we want to complete the lineup of characters from Captain N, make Game Boy a literal character, and he can project images from different games as attacks, and one of them be the Tetramino. So there you go. That's how you get it.
I like that.
I actually
Yeah.
like that a lot. Yeah.
Oh, really? I'm just.
Yeah.
And isn't it the Game Boy's 30th anniversary?
Is it? I mean, it might be.
Yeah, I think it is. And if it is, then that's incredibly fitting.
It's now a game man, I guess. Yeah.
It'd be weird. It'd be completely weird, but I guess you could do it.
You can like fire off Game Boy cartridges from the back of it, and and
Body
actually said
slam.
yeah, right, and like attack with characters from like, the best-selling Game Boy game. So you have like a Mario Land sprite come out and attack someone. You have a Tetramino come out.
Oh man, have Tatanga actually come out and fight.
You ready? Down B, right?
Uh-huh.
The back panel comes off and the batteries start rolling and it trips enemies.
Oh,
Perfect.
like a brawl trip.
Yeah, there you go. Causing a brawl
Yep.
trip.
Get a nice Duracell, product placement in there. It would be great.
It's just like Pikmin all over
My
again.
suggestion is still L Block, but I'll be okay if Game Boy makes it in as well. So that's a nice.
As long as you give him a face, like the little pixelated face. I'll
Yeah,
be happy with
exactly.
it.
Oh, okay then. All right. She says, ground us a bit with your next choice.
Oh, okay. Well, we got two here. I guess this one is probably the more likely. So this one I think would be a great choice. I feel that once we got Little Mac into the fray, we haven't had a whole lot of Punch-Out representation in both characters, of course, and assist trophies. Now, I would argue that a lot of these other boxers would be better as assist trophies, but if I had to pick one as a character, I would pick King Hippo as the next Punch-Out rep.
I was half expecting you to say Mike Tyson, like just the actual Mike Tyson.
Oh, God.
No, we don't. Yeah, I think Nintendo's done with him, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You make a very good point of how there aren't any Punch-Out assist trophies, and you would think there would be, especially as Little Mac originated as an assist trophy. So yeah, that's kind of weird, but I am all for another Punch-Out rep, and King Hippo is a great pick.
He's like one of the more obviously villainish, just because of the fact that he just speaks in growls and grunts. So, that's kind of amazing. And another just big, solid character. So it'd be interesting to see what they could come up with for his moveset when he's just this slow, lumbering character that can take hits. I'd be very curious what they do for him.
I like the idea of another heavy character, because Ultimate have been adding a lot of heavies with King K. Rool and Ridley. I guess Simon's kind of a heavy. I mean, it feels like they're making the roster a bit more balanced between lights and heavies, and we're still very much on the light side opposed to heavies. So yeah, more heavy characters does make sense. So yeah, the King Hippo's another great choice for that.
Yeah, maybe if we're actually getting a new Punch-Out game, which would be nice.
Yeah. Oh man, please. I love Punch-Out. The only thing that would be difficult is obviously the moveset. The character's key traits are hitting his weak spot, and then once he's down for good. Those two things. But actually, in the new Punch-Out, does he get back up, or does he also just stay down?
I think he stays down. I know he comes back with a sewer grate.
Yeah, which would be one of his moves. I feel like he could throw like the sewer grate. Another one is just a belly flop for like a neutral A, and I don't want him to throw his crown because that would just rip off King K. Rool.
Yeah,
right.
I almost want him to have like this big wind-up punch that would hit really like one of the most devastating hits in the game, even more so than Ridley's. But if he gets hit while he's winding up for it, his shorts come down and becomes weak.
Yeah,
That'd be great.
I was gonna say make him one of the worst characters in the game, where like one of his moves allows him to move his fist up, and if you hit him in his weak spot, he has to sit down for the rest of the match.
Poor guy.
Yep. Man, he would have an even worse recovery than Little Mac.
Doesn't jump.
Yeah, exactly.
Just the jump button does nothing.
Exactly. Oh man, I can almost imagine people go to throw him and he has like he doesn't just get thrown. That's the thing. He's not very good as far as movement, but you can't get him off the damn stage.
Oh, that would be really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Very different character.
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll happen, but I like the idea. I think there's a lot. There's obviously potential there.
Yeah, the hardest part is the moveset potential, but I think that as far as character with recognition, and also as far as just adding more representation to the Punch-Out franchise, I think he would have to be the number one in my mind.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Alright, my final character, and I'm going to go back to some litigation, because, damn it, I do think Bandana Waddle Dee has a chance of making it in, especially after Piranha Plant. Waddle Dee has much more of a moveset built into him than Piranha Plant does, but I will concede if Bandana Waddle Dee is just not too recognizable of a character for them, and we want another villain instead, like, real villain, I think Marks would be awesome. Like, just his moveset in Star Allies is so good. He is a devastating character, and to have that translate into Smash and have this crazy villain like Marks in there that splits apart and draws people in as like a final Smash, oh my god, it'd be so good. He'd be so creepy and it'd be wonderful.
One thing I love about having another Kirby rep is the chance of having a modern Kirby stage, because every Kirby stage in Smash is from like old school Kirby. We have not had a single modern Kirby stage, so please add that if they add a new character. But Derek, you made a great point in you're making the case for Bandana Waddle Dee, where you said that basically his moveset in Star Allies is basically already made for Smash. And yeah, it really is. If you look over his moveset menu, it really basically is a one-for-one to what Smash could be. So yeah, I have no reason to doubt why he wouldn't fit into Smash. And the only reason I said no originally to Bandana Waddle Dee was literally because he's basically a Waddle Dee. But, Piranha Plant is giving us new standards now, so
Yeah, exactly.
That's not really the case anymore.
If it was before PD Piranha Plant, which is BPP, I would have said... I definitely would have said not a chance with Bandana D. I know a lot of people keep asking for him because he's like playable and stuff, but like I always thought... just the same as John over there. He's so generic when you compare him to the rest of the cast of characters in Smash Brothers. But then Piranha Plant offered a floodgate. Now we can get anything from as likely as Bandana D to as unlikely as the little stars that pop out of enemies in Yoshi's Island.
Wow.
Called it. And that's going to be DLC now, she says.
Yeah. Oh no. Dark prophecy. No, but like honestly, it's funny that everyone always says Bandana D, and I get why, because he's more relevant than everything else. But if you asked me, and it also follows the trend of Sakurai picking older Kirby stages, and also staying with like some of the most storied and oldest characters from the Kirby franchise. I always imagined that if there was going to be one more Kirby rep, it would just be the Animal Buddies. Just like, so like, what's his name? Ricky the Hamster? Is that
Rick.
It? Yeah. Rick. Okay. He would be like the mobility, and the owl would be like resting on top of him at all times for attacks. And the fish, I don't know what you do with it.
Yeah, exactly. That's the problem. Is Kine is kind of worthless as a Smash character.
Maybe he'd be the grab.
Yeah, maybe. Like, at least in Star Allies, he appears doing water, but you're mostly playing as Rick and Koo. And that's why I suggested Marks as an alternative to Bandana Waddle Dee. If you want to have legacy and you're working with a classic character that was designed and created by Sakurai, so...
Yeah.
Again, the issue is Nintendo's picking this list. If it was Sakurai, I'd be a lot more confident, but without it being Sakurai, I just don't know.
It's funny because if I'm like really just thinking like what would Nintendo pick, what would Miyamoto pick if it's really him like behind the chair? I feel like Miss Pac-Man would be, or Q*bert. Because he was someone that was like campaigning for Pac-Man originally, so I feel like he'd be stuck in the times.
Yeah. Maybe, but I just see Miss Pac-Man as an echo, and since there's no more echoes, maybe you can make her own moveset, but it'd be a little tough.
It'd be very tough. I'm still miffed that Miss Pac-Man isn't a Pac-Man costume. Like, just put a bow on Pac-Man. That's all you need.
Yeah, seriously, it's so dumb.
It is really strange. Yeah, it does upset enough people where it's like, why not? It really nothing has to change just to make it a bow. It's and some eyelashes.
Right.
All right, John. What's your last pick?
Well, seeming as Derek and I had two characters which were the same, I'm gonna cheat a little bit and throw another suggestion in with this one. So, my suggestion is a Fire Emblem Three Houses rep. And my bonus suggestion is a Pokemon Gen 8 rep. So I don't know any of these characters, so I will not try and suggest any. Maybe Derek's better for the three
Oh
houses.
gosh,
it's
been so long since I've done that analysis that I'm not sure, but I can almost see the main female character getting in.
Right, yeah, I feel like it's just common sense to add another Fire Emblem character in, and I know people will be upset at like another Fire Emblem character.
Sakurai, is that you?
But, it just makes sense, seeming as basically every new Fire Emblem game since Awakening has had a representation. I guess, actually, that's not true. Shadows of Valentia didn't have a rep, but that's technically a remake, so yeah. I guess that doesn't count.
Although, I would like a Celica. Like Celica getting it.
Yeah, Celica would be great.
Great, yeah.
But, I feel like it's not necessarily a character that I'm, like bursting to have in Smash, but it's one that I think makes the most sense.
Now, are you speaking to any Fire Emblem character, or just that one in particular?
I'm speaking to anyone in Three Houses, but
okay.
The female character from Three Houses probably makes the most sense. But then again, I don't really know any of the characters yet, because
none of us do. We
haven't had a great look at the game, really.
Big
apart from
ideas.
That first trailer. But there's also Pokemon Gen 8. We already have Incineroar from Gen 7, but Gen 8 is next year. And we know that Sakurai got an early look at Greninja, so I wouldn't be too surprised if they've already started work on a Gen 8 character. So I believe Greninja was basically created off of like notes given to him by the Pokemon Company, but I don't think he really saw Greninja properly in action in the game. So even if it is early days for Gen 8, I think Sakurai could very well be working on this character.
That could be the case. It's funny. It's very likely, but there's a large part of me that wants to not believe that'll happen.
Yeah.
Just because we just got a Incineroar, it would just kind of like, it would be, single franchise fatigue again, like we got with Fire Emblem last generation. But
yeah, I mean, as far as Fire Emblem, I can see it happening because they do like to use that to promote. And say what you will about Corrin, he does feel different as a Fire Emblem fighter, so that's that's nice. But Pokemon, I want to say it's just too early.
And I guess another pro for the Fire Emblem character is we have a lot of very similar Fire Emblem characters in Smash, and we still don't have characters that complete the weapon triangle. Because most of them are sword users. We still don't...
we don't have a single axe user or lance user, so we're far
exactly. So have a character with one of those.
I could see it. I could see Three Houses making its way in somehow. Corrin's proof.
Yeah, you guys probably are right on Pokemon Gen 8, because we didn't have a Gen 7 DLC character in Smash Wii U, but Pokemon is one of Nintendo's biggest franchises, and I feel like it's probably one of the safer bets, but... At the same time, maybe they're just going to wait for the next Smash game before we have another Pokemon.
Makes sense to me.
My hope is that they don't go that route, and that from the business sense of it is that, do you want to buy a character that you've never heard of before? I hope.
Yeah. Yeah, that is the other thing, is that you are buying this character. Now, granted, a lot of people are probably just going to go ahead and get the bundle, but don't know on that one. Well, she says, what's your, I believe, final character?
Okay, if you guys want to talk about likely characters, get ready for this one. Of course I have to anybody who knows my channel icon.
Okay.
Of course I have to say Mike Jones from Star Tropics. Of course. Now, hear me out. I don't think Sakurai ever doesn't even know who Mike Jones is, because he's out of the 700 stickers in Brawl, out of the 400 already discovered spirits in Ultimate, no Mike Jones, no Star Tropics, anything. And I think that largely has to do with the fact that that game never came out in Japan. That could definitely be the cement shoes, but
That might.
But Nintendo themselves are still very much aware of Star Tropics and still try to keep the series represented in a small way in the territories that it came out in. So, you got Mike Jones and Star Tropics over on the Wii U. It's available there. It also got featured in the NES Classic. So with Nintendo at the helm, it's at least more possible now than it was, I feel, the last few generations of Smash Brothers.
Counterpoint, Nintendo keep releasing Urban Champion. And that's clearly on their minds. Yeah. No, I love the idea of this character being in. You make a good point about Japan not really knowing what Star Tropics is, though, and that might be the biggest axe in this decision here. But He'd be a great retro character, because we don't really have that solid retro character in Ultimate yet. I mean, I guess that's K. Rool, but, you know, this one goes far beyond that.
Yeah, as far as retro character, I think the oldest character we have as far as newcomers is Piranha Plant.
Oh, true. Yeah, you know, that's true.
Like, Piranha Plant is a retro character, but yeah, as far as Mike Jones, I've never played Star Tropics. It looks fun. I do want to check it out at some point. Now that I have my NES Classic. But just looking at his moveset, he does seem to have potential. He seemed like this weird combination between Ness and Link, which just sounds kind of fun as far as the character is concerned.
Absolutely. Yep. I totally agree with that. Yep.
But relevancy is his biggest issue. Like, that's...
Well, thank you, John, for presenting a way in which he could wiggle his way in there, which is as a retro rep. I appreciate that, because I didn't even think of that. Honestly, my retro rep, which now I realize was supposed to be on my list, but I forgot about it, was Donkey Kong Jr. was the other one. And I think because he has such a deep, rich history from the eras that he survived in, and then all of a sudden, just poof, he was gone. Or as a lot of people are very confident in saying, he's reborn as Donkey Kong present day. But Donkey Kong Jr., you know, it's like you got Baby Mario and Mario existing alongside one another. Donkey Kong Jr. has so many things, so many traits, and so many games that are wildly different from anything that modern DK has ever participated in. So I think he would be a ton of fun, and also a great callback to Nintendo of old.
Yeah, the way I picture Donkey Kong Jr. is kind of like Spider-Man, where he would like be able to just sort of bring vines out of thin air and climb up them. Because that's more or less his signature move, being able to climb up vines.
Yeah.
And I'm just sort of picturing him just making one appear from nowhere and him climbing up in midair.
That's a great, I like that idea.
I also see him throwing food or dropping food on enemies, or, you know, the ultimate attack, math.
Yes.
And doing math.
He's going to come in, his introduction is going to be Donkey Kong Jr. crunches the numbers.
He's after Yoshi for not doing his taxes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Oh, God. Yeah, I could maybe see it, but again, hard to say.
Let me paint the picture for you.
Okay, paint the picture for me.
Side B, he pulls out a go-kart, because no character has done a go-kart yet.
True.
Good point.
Waluigi fans are going to hate me for this, but I think a neutral B could be that he pulls out a tennis racket and hits fruit from the original game. Mm-hmm. Let's see. I'm losing you guys, I could tell. Fruit, huh? All right.
No, I'm seeing this. I do think like having his up B be that vine that you guys were talking about, that'd be an interesting recovery.
Actually, I think there's a character that does it. Tell me who it is, but he could be the first character to have an air grab.
I'm not sure if there's I don't know if anybody has that.
I suppose Bowser's side B can technically... Oh, no, wait, no. Actually, yeah, Bowser's side B can do that, I think.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Yep, absolutely. Although I think there's definitely a room or a vacancy of characters that can air grab, but in the air they're designed to... Oh, no, even Ganondorf has that to a degree. So
I suppose, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would be an interesting character, because he is one of Nintendo's oldest characters, but he's been shafted so much over the years. Derek did quite a good video on this in, I think it was Missing in Action, and basically the gist is, as Shesez said earlier, he is kind of modern DK, but he's also kind of not. It's never really clear, because sometimes they coexist together, and other times they don't, and sometimes Nintendo say he's like Cranky is his grandfather, and sometimes he's not, and it's very confusing to exactly what he is.
Yeah, like the only time the modern DK has ever appeared with DK Jr. is during one of the tennis games, but that's also a game where, you know, Mario and Baby Mario can appear next to each other, so that means nothing. But from what my understanding is, I think the modern interpretation of it, as far as Nintendo is concerned, at least as far as I can tell, is Cranky is is DK's grandfather, and Donkey Kong did become either Junior is his father, or it's just been so long. It's been so long.
I think Rare developers confirmed who they ended up becoming, but then the dialogue in the games and I think future interviews did not really imply that was the case. So it's so strange. I don't know. It's a really strange case.
Yeah, I don't quite get it, but yeah, as far as
Mike Jones.
Yeah, Mike Jones. Honestly, I think Mike Jones has a better shot than DK Jr.
Yay!
That was his argument the entire time.
Yeah, exactly.
Another character.
Distract you guys and shine you on to Mike Jones.
There you go. All right. Well, I think that's our lists. Who knows if these characters will show up? And I know there's definitely a lot of characters out there that we didn't mention that you guys absolutely want in. So definitely let us know in the comments who you'd love to see fill out these 5 slots in the DLC. Don't make the suggestion to Sakurai, he doesn't want to hear it, but who do you think he picked? Him and Nintendo. But yeah, I think that covers it for our Smash Ultimate DLC discussion, so thank you for watching, and if you like this video, be sure to like us on Facebook and Twitter at GameXplain. And Shesez, where can they find you at?
Over in the search bar, you just type in Boundary Break, and you will come to a series that allows you to see all of your favorite Nintendo games in completely different perspectives, with the intention of trying to find developer techniques and sometimes cut content. So if you like cut content, that's your kind of thing, hop on over to my channel and give it a shot.
Very cool. And of course, make sure to subscribe to GameXplain for more on Smash Brothers and other things gaming as well. Until next time, bye.